right. All right. Thank you so much for coming in this morning, Nate. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Would you mind giving us an introduction, your full name, the name of your business, and the type of services that you are offering for your clients?
Sure. My name is Nate Crandell. I have a real estate team called Honeyway, and we are with Compass West Realty, based, well, I guess now out of Martinsburg, West Virginia, but I work out of Winchester, service Maryland, West Virginia, and Virginia.
Okay. And what type of real estate do you guys specialize in? Is it commercial, residential?
Um, I don't specialize just in anything. If it comes across my desk and I can do it, I'm going to do it because I just think if somebody's asking you for help, you should help if you can. If it's not me that I'm personally doing something for them, I try to see if I can get them somewhere that they can be helped. So, yeah,
Okay.
just real estate in general, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay. And tell me a little bit of your background, like how you got here, how you got into your industry, and how it's led you to today.
So I had thought about doing real estate like out of high school, but I was really burnt out. I'm doing like in-person classes, and that was the only thing that was available at that time. I was going to college, and I didn't want to add another course to do that, and I was like, eh. Um, and then 2008, I thought about it again, and I had friends that were in real estate, and they're like, no, this isn't a good time.
Oh,
This is not a great time to start your real estate career. And I was like, oh, you know better than I do, and I trust you, so I'm going to put that off. And in most of that time, I was in hospitality. I worked for Red Lobster and Ruby Tuesdays. I was trainers for both of them, corporate trainers for both. I had come back to Winchester. I was working at the Middleburg Tennis Club, and I had like 750 bosses because it was a members only club. So like every member was a boss. And there were some members that were great. They, pal around, and I feel like I will acclimate myself to the situation. So if they wanted to be buddies and they were cool, I'd be buddies with them. Some were like very like know your place. And I was like, okay, but I just don't like this. And after a while, I was like, this isn't what I want to do. So I revisit real estate, and by that time, which was about 9 years ago, you could do courses online. I was like, great, I could do it in my free time and don't have to sit in a class,
save you traffic.
save traffic, and it was more on a schedule. Like I feel like restaurant or hospitality and real estate have a lot of the same hours. Nights and weekends are your busiest time
Yes.
because that's when during the week, during the day is when most of your clients or customers are going to be working so they can afford to go out to a restaurant or purchase a home. So it kind of fell in line there. I took the class and then I was just like, I'm going to be a real estate agent now. And I had a lot of people like, you don't want to just jump into it. Like,
Head
so
first.
like just maybe do it part time. And I just felt for me like such a big decision for somebody in their life as far as like purchasing a home or selling their home. Like that shouldn't be somebody that's part time. That should be somebody who's has a vested interest not only in trying to make money for themselves and survive for themselves, but to help whoever they're working with. And so I just said, no, I'm just going to jump right into it. And I did. And luckily, by the time I did that, a lot of people had told me not to. They had come from started an era where you had to spend a lot of money to promote yourself because there wasn't social media
Yeah.
or it wasn't as prevalent as it is now or even 9 years ago. You were buying flyers, you were putting ads in papers, you were, buying, mailers and such. And so I was fortunate enough that I didn't have to really do that. I used social media to my benefit to get my name out there. Also, just working very hard and taking care of the clients that I had so that they would take care of me with recommendations or repeat business. About a month into real estate, my nana uh, needed care. And so I started taking care of her like full time. So I was like starting to try to start this business. that was probably not a great idea to jump into without another job, and then taking care of her. But it really made me focus. Like, these are the things that I have to do, and they just need to be done.
Yeah.
And for the first 6 months, it wasn't great. I think I did like one rental, um, which I was very appreciative when they gave me this lead. They were like, because most agents don't want to work with renters or do rentals. They just don't think it's worth their time. And I
Mhm.
was just like, I've got clients. Oh my God, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
And they were great. Um, and then the end of my first year, which would have been like 2016, um, I was just like, I was burnt out. I was taking care of my nan. I was trying to, and I was just like, I told my nana, I was like, you have to move in with me. I can't keep going back and
Yeah,
forth, and
no.
like it, come. And I bought a place. I was renting. I bought a place specifically to be able to bring her into, because I knew that renters or landlords may be like, oh, you can't be on the lease, or you'll have to change things around. And so I bought a house, and she moved in, and you know, and then it just kind of fell into place. I
Yeah.
got one client, and it turned into and then after my first year, I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm going to be doing. Um, and I've just tried to build off of that for the last. July was the end of my 8th year, which I'm very happy about. I'm very fortunate that I've made it this long, because it's not a industry that has a lot of longevity. You have certainly people that have been around for 10, 15,
You really
20
gotta
years.
work for it, right?
Yes. Um, and there are some that they get their license, and you have your license essentially for 2 years before you have to renew it, and like they're done before that 2 years,
Yeah.
because I think people don't understand like what it means to be a small business owner. They think, oh well, I'll just work whenever I want to work.
Yeah.
Yes, when you get to a point where you're so great at whatever you do that people will wait for you,
Yes.
clients will be more flexible with what you want to do and how you want to do it, because they know that you're the best at your job.
Yes.
Um, I say to I work when my clients need me, and I tell my clients that, like, it's not a bother if you call, text, email me. If I can answer right then, I will. If not, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If I'm in out somewhere, I get a call, I just step away, take the call, and I come right back. Um, hasn't ruined my evening or
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
I'm doing, because I know how important it is. I won't have that ability to go out and hang out with friends or do fun, exciting things if I don't have clients and if I don't
Yes.
take care of them.
And I think
So,
that's going to pay off,
oh,
right? Like
it,
the
oh, certainly
dedication and the trust and the time that you
the
give.
the majority of my business is repeat clients at this point, or referrals from previous clients, um, which doesn't happen if you don't take care of the original situation or transaction. And so I'm happy to take a call. In fact, I have a gentleman. He has a rental in Winchester, and I remember I was out showing land in the middle of nowhere. I didn't have any service, and by the time I got back, it was too late to return any calls, and he had left me a message. And I was like, oh, well, I'll call him first thing in the morning. It's too late. Before I could even call him the next morning, he called me back, and I answered. And I was like, hey, I was about to call you. He goes, oh, I thought you were dead. He thought because I hadn't, because of how responsive I've been with him, that,
That it's just so off.
yeah, like, oh, he must be dead. It wasn't like he was busy or something else. That the only possible way that I could have not answered that call or returned his call was that I was dead,
Oh
which
man.
I'm glad that he was worried. I don't want him to be worried, but I'm glad that that was the case and wasn't like, I can't believe you didn't answer my call and
Yes. Yes.
and
Yes. Yes.
such. So, but that just shows, how responsive. And I like that. I hate when I see little notifications on my phone, like a text message, or it annoys me. And some of my apps, they pop up little, and there's no way to get rid of them. I'm like uninstalling and
No
restart, because I
worries.
just hate those little bubbles. And because I don't want anybody to wait on me for something that they're concerned about.
Yeah.
If I can take care of that concern, or at least start it for them as soon as possible, takes a little bit off of them. And that's what a part of what I get paid for, is to make it easier for them. I'm getting paid to make this easier for them,
Yeah.
not for it to be easy on me. If that happens to be the case, that it's easy for me and them, great. But it can't be me before them.
Wow. That's some dedication there.
Well, I mean, it's easier that way. It's much easier to take care, do your job well, so that they will come back or tell
Yes.
people to come to you, so that you don't have to always be constantly hunting for business.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
if you have, it's the difference between hunting and farming. If you have everything you need on the farm, you don't have to go around and track down,
The next
berries
meal.
or
Yeah.
yes, yes. So it makes your life a lot easier with
Awesome.
just doing that.
No, yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. Like, that's something I feel like that definitely makes you stand out. Because I know some people have boundaries and stuff, and it's totally okay. Like, some people have different ways of working, and that's the beauty of real estate agents is that they all come with different personalities, different type of working methods that
Mhm.
works for them, and that and clients have like a pool to choose from. So I think that is wonderful what you're doing. Just also remember to take time for yourself too when you can. But
Well,
yeah,
that's the thing. Like, I'm not really taking anything away from myself when I just step away from a moment, uh, because with real estate or any business, when you're a small business owner and you don't have a prescribed, like, I know all my clients are going to be coming in here and they're going to be going out at this time. You, I might get a call. I could get a text right now that's have a client says, "Hey, can we go take a look at this house this afternoon?" I didn't plan for that. So I am happy to take care of things as they come up. I find that that affords me a lot more time later, because if I say, "Oh, I have time later to get back to them or reply to this email or fill out this contract," something's going to come up.
yeah,
And then instead of having it done at 11 a.m. when it came in, I'm up till 11 p.m. trying to catch up because I put myself before. I'll always have time at the end of the day.
okay,
And so I don't feel like I take anything from myself. I also don't mind working. Like, I feel like that for me is something that doesn't wear me out. I don't get like worn out from
is it because
working.
you're doing what you love?
Um, no, I just think in my head it's something that I need to do, like, to survive. Like, I have to work in some way so I can provide for myself.
Yeah,
I grew up as an Orioles fan, and as you know, at that time, Cal Ripken Jr. Was the face, and still is, a face of the, and he went to work every day. And I know that there were days that he did not feel good. He was injured, but that was, that was his responsibility. And I can know that sometimes I get up, I don't feel 100%. And I don't expect to feel 100% every day. But I also know that I'll feel a lot worse if I don't get things
yeah,
done.
yes,
Like, for me, I'll feel like bad. Like, I should have done this. I
yeah.
could have done this. It would take me five
Like
minutes.
a guilt. I feel that some days where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like why did I get sick? But it's out of my control. Like,
Yeah. But then I also know, like, if something doesn't get done by like 8 o'clock at night and it's doesn't need to be done before 9 o'clock, then I'm going to be up before the world is up anyways.
okay,
Like, so if I go to bed at 9 o'clock and I get up at 6 o'clock, I have like 3 hours before the world
okay,
even starts. So I do have those boundaries for myself.
okay, cool.
I know what needs to be done right then and what can be done. Like, I know that there's usually nothing that's going to happen overnight that's going to keep me from it, unless it's an emergency. And then I would hope that people would understand I had an emergency. But if it's just me getting up at 6 o'clock and
Yeah,
everybody else is still like trying to either in bed or trying to figure out what they're doing for the day, I know, get it done, off to the races for the rest of the day.
yeah. All right. This leads me to my next question. How do you approach marketing and promoting properties to potential buyers? And what strategies have you found to be most effective?
So, marketing in general for me, for just the business, I don't do a lot of marketing of the business itself. Most of what would be spent for marketing um, goes into sponsoring events for different nonprofits in the area. I'm not a golfer, but I do sponsor two golf tournaments
Yeah.
a year, um, and mainly because the two events, the Clark County Education Foundation has one in the fall, and Beth Williams puts that together, and her husband Matt Williams is a home inspector, one of the ones that I have in my stable when clients need one
Mhm.
done. And she approached a couple years ago and said, "Hey, would you mind, sponsoring this, and they started out giving some things to, for the donate, and then it became doing actual sponsorships and actually participating in the tournament. And then, of course, Apple Blossom is a huge festival in Winchester. Like,
That sounds nice.
it is like 2 weeks of events, dances.
Food?
Was that?
Food?
Oh, food, like
Free
all kinds
cookies?
of like, yes, it's just a celebration of the apple blossoms, because harvesting apples is huge, part of the history and community of Winchester. And they have a golf tournament, and Dario Severis, who helps the Apple Blossom Committee do all that, came to me and was like, "Hey, we don't have a golf sponsor. Would you and Honeyway be interested?" And I was like, "Yes, yes." I don't golf. you know, I'm lucky if I get two good shots in for my team, but I'm the money. They get to come because they don't have to pay for the. So I have some good ringers, if you will, for my team. And so, but those are just two events. I don't think I've ever gotten any business from sponsoring them, but for me, it's like I'm helping give it back to the community. And
Yes.
when you can make the community better, it makes it easier to sell the community for people that don't live in the area. And Winchester is a haven for people to relocate to, for different industries. Valley Health, Navy Federal has one of their three campuses in the world in Winchester. The FBI just built a facility there. So there's a lot of people that are transplanting to Winchester. So if you can make the community better, it makes it easier to sell to the community.
That's right.
As far as individual properties, we use the internet, very much. Obviously, it starts with getting great photography. Our photographer, Joe Yaka with Absolute Altitude. It's funny. I met his mother-in-law. She was looking for a rental, and I don't exactly remember how we got in contact, but I helped her find a rental. And I remember she had said, "Hey, you should use my son-in-law. He's a photographer." And I was like, "I'm sure he's great." Like, you just hear it.
Yes.
And I myself don't actually try to find listings. I won't turn it down. I won't turn any business down that makes sense for me to do. So if somebody says, "Hey, will you help me sell my house?" Of course, but I'm not actively like, "Hey,
Yes.
I'm your listing guy." Um, that part is not as fun for me as going and touring homes and seeing a lot of different areas. But again, someone asks, I will do it. And so I wasn't even really worried about having a photographer. And then I met him again, and he gave me this business card, and it was very thick. And I was like, "Wow, this is a really nice card." And I went to his site and I saw it. So he actually has turned out to be a great photographer, and such. And so it starts with them. We take photos. We have a video walkthrough of the property, just so you can get an idea
Yes. I've
of
seen those.
the layout, because it's sometimes hard to get that from just the photos. And making sure that we have flyers that can be put out and printed out. um, Open houses, I'm not too keen on. I don't think that those usually sell the houses. um, it's rare that I've ever gotten any clients myself from an open
Yeah.
house. Um, our lenders tend to have really great success in them. I feel like they usually walk away with a client or two. But for me, it's one of those things where if a client wants it done, of course, I don't know that I would say, "Hey, we need to do an open house." Um, but we allow that to happen. And I think just making the property accessible as much as possible, making sure that I understand and know when the clients
Hmm.
are available and how much lead time they need, so we can just get people in there. um, Reaching out to agents when they make appointments to thank them for doing so, and letting them know about some things. um, Most agents probably don't read through the whole description and may miss something. I want to make sure that any high points about that property are known,
Hmm.
and if there's anything in particular that we're offering, or that is unusual from other properties, like if it's a neighborhood that has a capitalization fee like Lake Holiday in outside Winchester, they're aware, so that they can sound very knowledgeable to their clients.
That's right.
And it just makes it, and also just starting a conversation with them, trying to get a connection, because if that ends up being the agent that gets an offer accepted, you're going to have to deal with them for, the next month or so. And I want to try to make sure it starts off with a good foot.
Yeah. First impression is everything, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right. And then, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing the real estate industry in the next few years, and how do you think they can be addressed?
Mm, very loaded question.
Right?
So I think the biggest thing, and I think it's all as long as I've been in the industry and as much as I can tell from it, is just accountability. Um, there's been a major lawsuit against the NAR. Um, Multiple large brokerages had lawsuits and that they settled, and I feel like it comes back like it's hard to hold agents and brokerages accountable as another agent or brokerage, mainly because you don't want that scenario where you're the good cop and you see dirty cops. Because if you tell on the dirty cops, you put yourself in a very unsafe,
Uncomfortable, yeah.
unsafe situation. And when it's real estate, like if you turn an agent or a brokerage in for doing something that, definitely shouldn't be done, um, you run the chance of being blackballed by that agent or that brokerage. Though that should never happen,
Yeah, no.
um, it happens. So I think that's the biggest thing is just holding accountability, and better education. We just with these new changes between um, the MLS system and contracts with the associations, you see how, like, I see on Facebook how many of these agents really did not understand what the situation was as far as conveying how things work with their clients. And then they're like, I don't understand why these things are changing because it was this way. And I was like, well, it wasn't that way. And I think that, you know, part of that accountability is having that education and making sure that people know. It's almost like you get a license and then a lot of places you're just thrown out there, sink or swim. And I think it's one of the things if, most brokerages, they'll invest enough into you
Yeah.
to get you going. If you don't make it, they haven't lost that much. But if you make one deal for them, they infinitely made their money back. And if you go beyond that, that's just icing or yeah, icing on top. So I feel like just educating, there's so many agents,
Mm-hmm.
like everybody knows 30 agents. And I don't know that 30 agents actually know the whole how to actually do the whole business, as far as the real estate goes. So I think that's the biggest problem. It's just that because when you know that, and because you're supposed to be the professional,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be able to convey all these things. I'm one that I don't think you need to know all the answers. I think you just need to know where to find the answers.
Yes.
So if you come to me and ask a question that I don't know, I'm not going to like pretend like I know and hope that you don't call me out. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm not sure. I know where I can find it. I'll get right back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I do
I like that.
find that answer, then I take it in and I remember it for the next time. Now, sometimes there's situations like you might get it and that might happen one time and it may be years before and you might, but at least you have a little bit of an imprint because you have a situation to tie it to. So I think that's the biggest problem. Um, I think, we talk about interest rates. That's a big thing. Interest rates go up and down,
Yes.
ebb and flows. Um, and that's another thing that not knowing as a professional, like the bigger picture, like, yeah, during COVID, interest rates were super low, historically low.
Yes.
They will probably never be that low again. So you can't compare that
And people are
to,
just like waiting and holding on to those numbers. It's like,
yeah, you're not going to get there. Even when I bought my first home, that was like 12 years ago.
mm-hmm.
And I got a 4% interest rate, and people were like, "Oh my God, how did you get such a low?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know. That's just what it was."
Mm-hmm.
So that's, it's kind of like gas prices. Everybody always complains about gas prices, but they always come down. Everything else stays up. no one ever says anything about the gallon of milk that went up because gas prices went up, because they use that, industry likes to use
Yes.
that. Oh, our costs went up, so we had to raise. But milk doesn't come back down. The gas prices will come back down. It ebbs and flows. So things like that, I don't think interest rates are, and actually when it's higher interest rates, that's if you can eat that extra um, mortgage payment, or that little bit on the mortgage payment because of interest rate, it's great for you because you can always refinance. So you're not competing with as many people because people are waiting, or they are in a position they can't because of interest rates. So you buy it at the higher interest rate at the lower price. Then when the interest rates come down, you refinance and your house is going to go up, because when the interest rates go up, that's when everybody comes out and then bids everything up.
Hmm.
And that's what, people not understanding this and being able to explain it. I'm not a lender. So I don't go too far down the rabbit hole. If it gets to a point where it's, not just should be like common knowledge and more professional, let me get you in front of one of our great lenders. They
Yes.
can, they can explain it. And if they say something wrong, you don't come back and say, well, Nate, you told me this. I didn't tell you this. So
Excuse me.
you, so I think that's it. Inventory, oh, we got low inventory. Yeah, that happens when people aren't moving, because they're waiting for rates to come down,
Yeah.
and we just don't know when that happens. Um, I think those things are always going to be changing.
Yes.
The I
Absolutely.
think like the 50-year average on interest rates are like is 7%. 50 years. Like, I don't know how people would have lived if they had to get a mortgage in the 80s when it was 12%. Like, we're very spoiled. Like, all those interest rates came down. Mortgages used to be really high.
Hmm.
Um, Credit cards used to be super high. You even if you had great credit, car loans were super high. Even if you had great credit, they come down. But then they remember like that one little blip.
Yeah.
It's like the
And
athlete
they
that
hold
had,
on to that.
yeah, and it's like the athlete that had like one great year. It's like, and then always holding them to that one year, like,
What about the other year?
or even one bad year. They're like, oh my, he's done. Out of 10 years, he had one bad year, and he comes back, and they're like, oh well, maybe he isn't done. Well, yeah,
It's
let's
funny
see
how
what the
that
story is.
works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's get the whole story instead of looking at it in,
One
yeah, look a
little
little
stat.
window.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Absolutely. Um, while I have you here, is there maybe like something that I have not touched on that while I have you here you'd like to share with our audience?
um I feel like the best thing you can do for yourself, if you're talking about any industry, not just real estate, is to, you know, do your homework as a consumer. Whether that is actually going online and being careful where you go online to get answers. Make sure that it's places that you can trust, and that's hard these days because it
There's so much
there's so
information.
much information, and it's all made to look like it's
Legit.
fact.
Yeah.
But like, I would say, if you're looking for anything, whether it's a real estate agent or a mechanic or a plumber, talk to a couple, see what they say. Just don't always take it as,
The first one you
yeah,
think.
unless it's me.
Unless
Yeah,
it's Nate. Yeah,
yeah, unless
exactly.
it's me.
Duh.
Even me, I don't get upset when somebody I know works for somebody else, like as far as real estate goes. And I always find it really funny when people get upset about that. Like, "Oh, my sister in law just listed with another agent. I can't believe she would do this to me." And it's like, well, whose fault is that? Did you convey to them that you know what you're doing and that you're the best choice for a huge life decision for them? Like, if you were a doctor, let's say you were a heart surgeon, but you were not the best heart surgeon ever, but you were one.
Yeah.
Would you get upset if a family member went and got the best heart surgeon to do?
Absolutely not.
No, because you want the best for them.
Yes.
If I don't work for somebody, that's fine. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody wants somebody that's super responsive or is going to put their wants before myself. I don't know why they would want that, but some people don't want that. But there are people, there are agents, there are other service providers that are really good at selling themselves, and probably better at selling themselves than actually the services that they're selling. I can't fault them that. Maybe I should be better at that. I think most businesses are good at really one thing and not a lot of things.
Mhm.
When I worked in restaurants, the last couple that I worked at were farm to table. Farmers are great at farming. They're maybe not so great at business. So we would send invoices out or give them a check, and or they forget to bring the invoice.
Yeah.
And we're like, how are we supposed to pay you? And they were like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm like, well, we have to worry about it, you know.
Yeah.
Or we'd send them a check and it'd be like 6 months before they would cash it.
Oh
Like
no.
they're not good business people a lot of times. That's not what they do. They're great at farming. That's why we, and I feel like for myself, I won't say I'm great at just one thing. I feel like I'm good at most of the things, um, which I hope is why people will want to work with me. But if they don't, again, I'm not going to be upset. Um, I know that I can't take care of everybody. There's just not enough time in the day.
Yeah.
But I feel like just in general, talk to several. Um,
See what's out there, see what's a good fit for you, who you mesh with.
know what questions to ask. I feel like even when I get like calls, like recruitment calls from other brokerages, I'm not looking to move. The one thing I want to know, and the only thing that matters to me in this situation is, what are you offering as far as money goes? I don't care about the website that you have that's mainly all your branding and you just drop me in there, or all these tools that you are offering that I have my own or I don't need. I want to know what the money is. And I'll tell you, they never want to tell me that. They don't want to
Oh.
tell me that. They want to try to either build value, or they want to just tell me how great it is by all the things that they want to make it. I feel like a lot of service providers, a lot of businesses do that. They want to either build value. So when they drop that bomb on you, you're like, oh, well, that's not bad with everything they do. Or they just want you to not even worry about that part. So I think that, knowing what questions to ask,
Yeah.
like, how are you going to sell my house? What kind of marketing are you going to do?
Mhm.
Um, I hear about these things. Like, I don't care if a client asks me a million questions. I'd rather them ask me questions than just them to assume that I am doing everything correctly, or how they want it. Or I've sold a house before, or I've purchased a house. I know the process. Well, you know what you were told.
Yes.
So I want them to ask questions. I feel like if you have nothing to hide, there's no reason not to answer their
Yeah.
questions.
Absolutely.
Transparency
Yeah.
as much as possible.
I love that. No, that's great. That's some important piece of information there for anybody who's buying or selling. Make sure you come in knowing the questions and you talk to more than one person and see what's out there. And now, for my final question, I guess parting words, is there a mantra that you like to live your life by, or maybe a motto or a saying that you would like to share with our listeners that has inspired you?
Huh.
I know, right on the spot.
It, I think there's a lot, um, on different factors. I think, for when it comes for business, the the best investment a business can make is into the right people, because the right people will take care of you and help you build your business. Um, and it's easy to replace a printer or software, but it's really hard to replace good people. I think everybody's replaceable. No matter how great you are at something,
It sounds scary, but yes.
well, no, it shouldn't be scary. If you're scared about it, then you're concerned that you're not doing a great job. If you should know that you're replaceable as an employee, but as an employee, your boss is replaceable. You can go somewhere else if it's not working out. You should never be Neither should be ever be held hostage by the other. If you're not getting what you need as an employee, find somewhere else. Find something that works for you. If you have employees that aren't doing what you expect and need them to do, find new employees. Don't worry about what will happen if they're going. Don't be Neither side should be held hostage. And it might be hard to replace somebody. It might take you a while, but when you do find good people, you know, it works out on both sides. When you find a good boss, when you find a good employee, I'm very fortunate. I have a really great broker, um, and I tried to be a very great agent and representative of her company because I know how important it is, especially when we first started. The company didn't have a name, like it didn't have a name in the area.
Yeah.
So we would say, "Oh, we're Compass West Realty." Like, who? What? Um, Now that question doesn't come up as much. And for me, I people don't associate me with really any brokerage. They just know me, or maybe Honeyway, my real estate team. I've transcended above the brokerage, but I know that I can't do it without the brokerage, and my broker has been great support. So I think just investing in yourself, investing in others, the right others,
Yeah.
is probably the best thing you can do just in general in life.
Yes.
Having good people around you. If a relationship doesn't work, don't be upset about it. Be happy that you've realized it and that you have the ability and power to do something about it.
That's some powerful stuff there. Like that's a great different point of view, and I like it. I like hearing all kinds of people's outlooks and how they look at things. It kind of helps you to understand it better. So thank you so much for sharing that with us and for sharing all your insight here on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so very much for giving me a platform to do so.
Absolutely. All right.